My people, today we are going to look at the recent events in Cameroon following the post-elections. We are also going to look at France. France is the elephant in the room. We will have proper perspective about this nation, France, and the firm grip that they have in Africa. Let's take a look. Now, citizens of La République du Cameroon, this video is going to be of great importance to you. It will give you perspective and courage on how to carry yourself through this time of turbulence. This is an old man crying, and if care is not taken, this will be our collective story in the next 20 to 30 years. You will be old like this father you see on your screen, crying because you did not take action. When events like this were going on, you were hoping on God to come help you, when God has given you everything to succeed. When events like this were going on, you thought the politicians were Rosicrucians, and so they possessed some mystical power that prevented you from taking action to change your story. Again, the Greeks who introduced us to this modern form of democracy were clear about the guidelines to understand individuals within a given society. Aristotle said there were three human beings in a given society: an idiot, a tribesman, and a citizen. An idiot is someone that is selfish. They care only about themselves and their family. If it ought to be, it is up to God. According to the idiot, it was not an insult. It was a description of a human being in a given society. The politicians possess some mystical power. Politics is a dirty game. We won't get involved. That was an idiot. The tribesman was someone that cared much about their tribe. They won't think out of their close circle. It might be a traditional tribe or a political tribe. The tribesman is focused about where the leader comes from. According to the tribesman, the hero is the warrior, the man with the gun. That was a tribesman. The citizen was someone that was informed about how politics work. They were engaged and involved in building their nation, and they made a significant contribution to shape the political structure of their nation. Because whatever anyone is saying right now, if accepted as truth, will affect us in the next 30, 40 to 60 years. We've seen that through Aijo. We've seen that through Fonja. That is why we get involved, so we don't become old citizens in a society and said we had no power when all of this was going on. So we are attacking ideas here, not people. Let's continue watching. Again, young people, if you don't rise up and take action right now, this is what happened in the 1950s and 1960s. Young people around the world rose up. They were against old barbaric regimes, wars, violent. They wanted equality. They wanted to be heard. Amadou Ahidjo was 35 upon the independence of Cameroon. The same age as me. And for those who are talking about names, names matter. What your parents named you when they gave birth to you matters. It can control your entire existence. When Thomas Sankara took over Upper Volta, the first thing was to change the name to Burkina Faso, reflecting the indigenes of that area. The name was Upper Volta. Names matter. Some say, oh, Ambazonia doesn't matter. No, it does matter. He had to change the name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. And that laid a solid foundation for Ibrahim Traoré today to say, France, goodbye. We praise Burkina Faso across Africa today. Thomas Sankara laid that foundation by first of all changing the name. He's called the Che Guevara of Africa. That is how Thomas Sankara is perceived. So the United Kingdoms of Tikar matters. And you understand why through this video. Dealing with a country like France. Because that is the elephant in the room. Everyone is cautious about France. Did France manipulate the elections in Cameroon? We will look at France from an objective perspective today and then contextualize everything so we can have perspective. And our freedom is tied to France. And if we don't address this, our people will fail. La République du Cameroon will fail. Africa will fail. And what I will share with you today, less than 90% of Africans harbor that belief about France. We'll go ahead and listen to Issa Tchiroma Bakari briefly before we get to France. Now, Issa Tchiroma Bakari is coming after we've had Ninja Fundi, we've had Maurice Kamto. The question is, does Issa Tchiroma Bakari has what it takes to challenge Paul Biya? Because this is a defining moment. If this situation is not handled properly, within a month, everything will be over. And in the next 7 years, you will have Paul Biya. When you look at France, this huge, this is for those in the Anglophone zone, the leaders in the Anglophone zone. When you tell your people, including those in La République du Cameroon, that France controls everything in Cameroon, what you are doing is crippling the citizens of La République du Cameroon mentally to be focused on an invincible enemy. And with that, they become weak to attack the people that defrauded them of this election. And you might be doing that not knowing what you are doing. The Bible says we wrestle against principalities and power, not against flesh and blood. The battle is in the mind. When you cripple them psychologically by letting them know the enemy is out there, when we know there's no way for France, you never saw France during this campaign. We saw Atangan Paul, we saw Clement Atangana, we saw Paul Biya, we saw Issa Tchiroma Bakari. When you cripple them mentally, they will never get to fight France. You slow their momentum. What will happen if the citizens of La République don't stand up to this regime? Everything will go back to normal. And they will deploy their military back into the northwest and the southwest to terrorize our own people. And that is what you are doing unconsciously. What the citizens of La République need right now is momentum to stand up against this regime. And that is one of the purpose of this video. As they find their freedom, we will find our own freedom. If you say anything that will make them feel weak, not focus, they won't have the momentum to fight. That is why I say the young people should stand up and hold this mantle. Any idea that hasn't worked, let's freeze on that right now. Let's keep listening.
Opposition leaders before you have tried to unseat the president of the republic via different means, including street protests, and have not succeeded. And some say that your case will not be any different. How do you respond to that?
Well, let us see. Let us see.
In a previous clash hearing,
Tchiroma Bakari said, "Let us see." I like the look in his eyes. But let us see. Who knows? Right? Who knows? He might have a plan. We are getting into the story of France right now. I want to let you know, France has always been like that woman in Europe. When we have nations like Germany, maybe we have Britain, these are like the men in Europe. France has always been like that beautiful wife. When you look at France, you think about beauty, you think about philosophy. That is France. When you don't have that global perspective about France. In Africa, France is that terror. France is that country that colonizes. France is the imperialist. The nation that will come through IMF, Francafrique, IMF, and other programs to hold Africans bound. But in Europe, that is not how France is perceived. Globally, France is perceived as that nation that is all about beauty, love. Even the French language is perceived as the language of love, amour. That is how the world sees France. But one thing you should pay attention to is, during the 1940s, Germany taught France. The elites in France were crippled. Some of them ran away. They were scared of Hitler. They were scared of the almighty Germany. Charles de Gaulle is the leader that emerged. He was just a military officer. He made speeches abroad to inspire crumbling France to stand up to their feet. And he said, "Paris, liberate yourself." He didn't say, "Germany is this big, Germany is huge, they will crush you." He said, "No, Paris, Paris, liberate yourself." I would like us to start from there so that we have a perspective about the France we are dealing with today. Because not understanding that, Sun Tzu said it clear, in the art of war, you have to master yourself and then you master your enemy. So if you don't master yourself well and master your enemy, you will fail in every battle. So if France is the biggest elephant in the room, then let's study France and have perspective about what France is all about in 2025. Fair? Not France in 1884 or 1885. Not France during the era of Napoleon. Not France during the era of Charles de Gaulle, but France in 2025. So let's listen to General Charles de Gaulle. This is the leader who rose up at the time Germany captured France.
Paris, Paris outragé, Paris brisé, Paris martyrisé, mais Paris libéré. libéré par lui-même, libéré par son peuple avec le concours des armées de la France, avec l'appui et le concours de la France tout entière, c'est-à-dire de la France qui se bat, c'est-à-dire de la seule France, de la vraie France, de la France éternelle.
That is how France got back on its feet. A country that was scared and frightened by Germany. That is how France liberated itself from the tyranny of Hitler. Today, the citizens of La République du Cameroon and those in the United Kingdoms of Tikar, I offer the same words to you. Liberate yourself. Do not be focused on any outside enemy that you can't see. That is the mindset in Africa. We've created imaginary enemies. Without your leaders coming into close proximity with these outsiders, they won't have any power over you. So if you deal with those leaders, you indirectly deal with the outside enemies. So don't take your focus off these leaders that negotiate terrible deals that affect you back home. Do you understand? We know this even in our tradition. When you go to a native doctor, they throw their charms on the ground. They will always point someone in the family that is after you. Not some enemy in America or in France or in Britain. No, have you gone to a native doctor and they tell you the person that is trying to get you is in France? You see, when we lose touch of who we are as Africans, going with this flow, with the Western values, politics, while losing who we are as Africans, we lost touch with reality. You rarely hear a European country get up and think their enemy is that far and some external force is manipulating their country. Only in Africa that we believe that everything that goes wrong with us has to do with some external invincible enemy that we can't touch. Because when you say France, we cannot touch that. Do you know who is really affecting you in France that you can go hold responsible? But in our tradition, we will find who that individual. They will tell you that your stepbrother, your cousin, your sister, your brother, somebody, before our tradition got corrupted. It was accurate. The Europeans told you everything was bad. We would have adapted our modern Christian belief to our traditional values, just like China adapted technology, capitalism to the authentic Chinese culture. And they are making progress because they still have their soul intact. We've lost our soul. So our enemies are all far away, beyond our reach. Just like the Amazonians amplified Paul Biya. He was a god. When I heard about Paul Biya, I thought it was some mystical force that we can't even touch. And they think Paul Biya is that smart. And like, if you think, my people, if you think France was really manipulating the elections in Cameroon, that means France is not that smart as well. Because how can Paul Biya, after 9 years of people dying in the Anglophone zone, turn around and say he won the election in the Anglophone zone? If France is controlling the elections, France should tell Paul Biya it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense saying you won the election in the Anglophone zone, given the pain that the people have gone through for 9 years. And if you turn around after seeing this and then you tell me Paul Biya is a smart man, that tells me who you are. If you think Paul Biya and Atanganji Paul are smart, just little things like this. If they are smart to even think, if you think France is in this, then that means France is not that smart as we think. But this was France. Now let's look at the richest man in that country. Let's look at the richest man in that country because it will help us have perspective on what France is globally known for. And then from there you would understand if this is what they value, how do you break them? How do you succeed in a way that France backs off? That is the richest man in France. Bernard Arnault. He is the owner of Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior. If you heard about Dior, the brand, that is the owner of the brand. So France is known as that elegant nation, that nation that projects beauty, fashion, food, philosophy, history. The Paris Fashion Week is a classic example. So it is important that we have a unique perspective about what this country treasures. That is France. Image is everything for France. That is why the first thing Thomas Sankara did was take out the French image on Burkina Faso, change the name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. Very soon they will make other changes, maybe the franc CFA. So France thrives on their image.
Something happened all the way.
France thrives on their image. Perspective is everything for France. Now, they've replaced the ships and the chains during the era of slavery and slave trade. Right now, it is diplomacy. It's through the IMF. It's through Francafrique. It's through the language, the French language. They make you think, oh, if you can speak French eloquently, you are someone who is important. It's all about beauty for France. How do you penetrate someone that lives on an image? Because if you look at Europe today, the economic powerhouse in Europe is Germany. Germany is the most respected country right now in Europe when it comes to economy. France will do everything to protect their image. That is their weak point. The lady you see on your screen is Candace Owens, a popular YouTuber here in the United States of America. She attacked the president of France and his wife for over a month in this country. France was in panic. Why? Because it is all about the image. How the world sees France is what France feeds on. That is how they remain relevant in the global stage. This lady attacking the president of France was something unbearable for the president of France. They sent threats, lawyers attacked her. They called the president of the United States of America to talk to this lady to stop talking about the president of France. France even said they will get involved to solve the Ukraine crisis if this lady will stop talking about it. France thrives on image. Again, more than 90% of Africans don't have this impression or this thought in their mind about France. They see France as this monster that controls them, and their presidents are powerless, and France is the one doing everything. Again, if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. During the era of slavery and slave trade, I told you, right? Just about 1% of Europeans came down. Almost 15 to 25% of Africans, African elites, participated for slavery and slave trade to be operational in Africa. Imagine that. So without the participation of this 25%, you will be free. This 1% will have no impact on your country without the participation of this 25%. You think it has changed because we are post-colonial Africa? No, it hasn't changed. The same thing. Now it's through diplomacy, it's through trade. And if we don't understand what is going on, we will think it's a different script. The same thing. We are dealing with trade deficit. And what is trade deficit? That means we import more of finished goods than we export finished goods. We export raw materials, we import finished goods. And when we do this over time, there will be trade deficit. And as we are building the United Kingdoms of Tikar, we will make sure that we export finished goods as well so that it can offset trade deficit. If not, we will turn around and start borrowing the same thing. That is what has happened to most countries around us. Because that is how a government raises money, just through two primary ways. You either raise money through taxes or by borrowing, or through selling your raw materials or resources. If you can't harness talent to produce so you can offset trade deficit, you end up in this loop of borrowing from the IMF. Maybe Burkina Faso now is borrowing from Russia. Who knows? So you have to offset the trade deficit. Let's listen to this lady. It's an interesting call she had from the President of the United States. I won't get into all the details about the story, but this video is to help you have perspective about France. Let's take a listen.
Back in February, and I was sworn to secrecy temporarily, and I feel that today is the correct day to inform audiences because it may have some severe global implications. So here is what happened, all right? I realize that Emmanuel Macron is in Washington, D.C., February 24th. He is in Washington, D.C., and he had departed the White House just hours before I received the call. When I call that person back, they tell me something that is even stranger. Emmanuel Macron is holding up negotiations to end the Russian and Ukrainian war unless you stop speaking about his wife. And I'm just going, what?
Unless you stop speaking about his wife. So image is everything for France. We think we need a strong military. We need to build our own economy. Yes, that is important. Our own military, yes, that is important. But France thrives on their image. Global perception is everything for France. How do you tackle an individual like that? Not by making your people think they are this monster that will eat them. No, President of France was panicking. Panicking. Because someone on YouTube in America was poking holes into the image of France. Let's keep listening.
What? And I get another message that's like, hey, keep your phone on. And anyways, this phone call is coming from Florida. I pick up the phone and lo and behold, so here's what happened. I'm negotiating this thing. I'm negotiating Ukraine and Russia, and you wouldn't believe how many parts are part. It is President Donald J. Trump. He is calling me, and in true President Trump fashion, he jumps right into the narrative.
France called President Donald Trump to talk to Candace Owens to drop the name of France, drop the name of the wife of the president of France. How do you find victory against someone that thrives on image? Not through your economy, not through your military. You win an individual like that through authenticity. You win them by being yourself. And that is why Tikar is very important. Not any name that reflects their image, whether it is Britain or France. You tell your own story. Your true story. And they see you thriving as a people on your story. The truth, an authentic story about you, is what breaks any imperialist, colonialist, slave master authenticity. If you've watched the movie Roots, when Toby was captured, his name was initially Kunta Kinte. The goal was to change his name from Kunta Kinte to Toby. Because that all by itself changes his identity. Some people will think it's just a name. No, you start from there. When you give birth to a child, the first thing you're looking for is a name. How are you going to call this child? Because that matters. And most parents name their children based on what they are going through at that moment. That is biblically proven as well. You give them a name. Just like you say your Ambazonia, the name comes from a place where you, as an indigenous of Tikar, your ancestors were captured and sold. That matters because you've forgotten who you are, you've forgotten your story. As an African, that matters. That is your soul right there. When they rename you, the goal was to change that name from Kunta Kinte, Mandinga warrior, to Toby. Because when we change your name, we can tell your story. But when we reclaim our name, we can tell a different story. When we had just Ambazonia, we can tell the Southern Cameroon story. Now that we have Tikar, we can tell our story. And this spans more than 4,000 years. At the minimum, we go back to when slavery and slave trade started. This is who we are. Why did Ambazonia fail? And why will La République du Cameroon fail? But those who you study matter. If La République du Cameroon studies Ambazonia, takes advice from Ambazonians, they will end up with the same story like that of Ambazonians. If you are in class and you copy answers from someone that has written GCE maybe 5 times, there's a high chance that they might not get it right. And you are copying answers from them. Look for someone that has succeeded. I know we have brave, strong people in the community, but this is the time for reality so that we can be free. Because you stay quiet right now, in the next 30 years, everybody here will suffer from these ideas that we see and we don't challenge to bring perspective. Tomorrow, people will say, oh, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you stand up? Oh, it's already late. So we stand up now And everyone sets aside their ego and let's work on what will work. You rejoice and be happy and not be thinking how to fight me or fight the vision. If you harbor that kind of energy, you are an enemy of our progress. And you are proving to the white people that you are inferior to think that way. You protect individuals like this. You fight anyone that fights them. That is what the West does. Donald Trump say, protect Elon Musk.
Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. But he's a character, he's a special guy, he's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them.
Protect those who are creative thinkers. To say Paul Biya is a smart man, he said he won the elections in Bamenda after 9 years of war, tells me who you are. To tell me Clement Atangana and Atanga Jipo are smart people, that tells me who you are. That doesn't look... To tell me that France was part of this tells me who France is, of which I don't go with those conspiracies. France just benefits from the foolishness of our leaders. I will not amplify France that way in my mind. That is psychologically crippling. To think that way about France. I respect their accomplishments. You know France as oppressors in Africa. In close circles, in the intellectual circle, we see France as philosophers. We see France as a symbol of beauty and elegance. Their wine, Louis Vuitton, Dior, that is how we perceive France. You get it? When we talk about France, we talk about Jean-Jacques Rousseau with the social contract. Those are philosophers from France. Maximilian Robespierre, these are individuals that stir up a revolution. Napoleon, René Girard, Gustave Le Bon, these are thinkers from France that made a major contribution to Western civilization. And they are appreciated within the intellectual circle. And they've made sure that they preserve that image. And while you see them as oppressors, only your behavior. That's why I say, if you can reject what I tell you, I place an idea before you, I see how you're thinking, that gives all those nations the leeway to say these are barbaric third world nations that don't know what they are doing. Why do you even care if they perish? But when you start accepting your own thinkers, your own philosophers, now they rise up because you are the only one that will show the world that you have great people from among you. And with that, the world start respecting you through that leader. The stigma falls. I don't see Paul Biya like that, the way you see him. And the BIR or whatever you call them, they only take instructions from Atanganji, Paul Biya, and the rest. So without an order, the B doesn't act. You see what I'm saying? Now, you guys have looked at the military strategy to be everything. No, the military only takes action based on instruction. When you start praising your own thinkers, they'll raise a military that will guide the action of that force, and that force will serve the greater good of your people. So I don't see France that way, the way you see France. And most Africans don't see France the way I see France. So we don't cripple the people of La République du Cameroon by telling them, oh, France is this monster manipulating the elections in Cameroon, choosing who will become president. They just benefit from the ignorance of the people in this place. They are business people. They want the best for their country. Without the participation of incompetent leaders that we choose, France has no power over us. Burkina Faso has proven that, even though through the military route. So you focus on changing these leaders. You wake up every day, Clement and Tangana, I heard you reading the results. Is this result accurate? We go check that man out. At Tanganjipo, you are the one saying military should be deployed. We don't stop. Because you stop, all of a sudden, everything goes back to normal. They redeploy this military back to the northwest and the southwest to torment our people. And that's what you get to do as an Anglophone elite. Now, let's listen to how Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest fighters, he has a strategy, because you have to understand what goes on in the battlefield. The battle is won in the mind and through speech. Through speech. That's why you see I've focused a lot on clarifying our story. That this is not marriage. This is dating. There was no federal union that was dissolved because we need a union treaty to prove that a federation existed. International law. No UN will tell you this. Everybody needs help. The world is in pain. We have to rise up. And those who are saying, oh, do you want to sign the union treaty right now? Let me be clear. We've put legal experts together to share the things that I'm sharing with you here. So it's not just coming out of just thinking. Ask constructive questions that can help me have clarity on our situation. The individuals that would have signed the union treaty is Britain, Amadou Ahidjo, and Foncha. Since they are all dead and gone, there is no way for us to ratify a union treaty based on that plebiscite in 1961. Can never happen again. That moment, that opportunity is over. That is why I say, you have been free since 1961 and never knew it. We have lawyers in the community. Come on, they should back me up. You know what contract law is all about. How can you say somebody dissolves a contract or dissolves a union where we don't have a union treaty? We have lawyers in the community that have studied contract law and they know these things. You get it? Foncha was representing Southern Cameroons. We had Amadou Ahidjo representing La République du Cameroon. And then we had Britain by John Owen's Field. I think he would have been the one to represent Britain. These are the three individuals to sign that union treaty. There is a statute of limitation. And because they are dead and gone, you can't wake up today. There is no one in the entire Anglophone zone that can wake up today to sign a union treaty with La République du Cameroon based on that plebiscite in 1961. This is international law. The people, if they decide today that they want to continue this relationship with La République du Cameroon, it is completely something new, not based on what happened in 1961. This is law. So there is no one with the power in the entire Anglophone zone. And that is why you see we are restoring the United Kingdoms of Tikar, following international law. And we can negotiate our relationship with the Southwest and say we have the right to self-determination according to 76B of that resolution 1608 to establish a nation. And those who go around the idea of German colony thinking it was a country, there's a difference between German colony and a UN trust territory. And I want to caution neighboring nations around Cameroon, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Central Africa, Nigeria. There are individuals in Cameroon today that believe that that was one country. So when they come into your nation, running away from this war, be careful that you don't have more than 500,000 in your country. If you have even up to 100,000 Cameroonians in your country, In the next 10 or 15 years, when this is all said and done, they might try to carve part of your country and join with Cameroon, because they have in their mind that they want to continue that German colony, thinking it was a country. So be careful, because that is what happened with us in 1961. Some from the Francophone zone came over and thought this was reunification, to recreate that German colony. This is sad. That's why I say we have to help these people. Help them come out of this delusion. Colonialist. That is the kind of mindset that you have. So you really loved what the colonial masters came and did here, that you're looking for every way to recreate it, or merge people, lump people together. And then, my people, if you date a lady and you are dating, you cheat on her, maltreat her, you get up tomorrow and ask her, oh, do you want to sign a marriage contract now with me and let's get married? Are you the one in the position to provide those options? Or the lady has the choice to even walk away without talking to you? Just delete your number. Are you serious? And this has to do with the country? Oh, do we want to sign the contract right now and get into the relationship? No, it doesn't. Life doesn't work like that. Again, there's no one in the Anglophone zone that can do that. You don't have that power. You must be Foncha. So we have to resurrect Foncha from the dead, resurrect Amadou Ahidjo to ratify that union treaty. And Foncha said, I ran around trying to get Ahidjo to ratify the union treaty. And he used the draft constitution to declare a federation and the union.
Best of my knowledge, it did not appear to me that that was going to precede the legalization of the draft constitution. So the very August, I had to go back to him and remind him about the resumed constitution. When he did not answer me, in September, I reminded him. But unfortunately, on 1st of October, I used the draft to declare federation and unification.
This is how ignorant Amadou Ahidjo was. But at least he tricked our people somehow to maintain some control over us. Administrative control. Not a legitimate control. Now, let's listen to Muhammad Ali. Citizens of the United Kingdoms of Tikar, those of La République du Cameroun. This is how you fight. You first of all prepare your mind. I know this as a fighter myself, that if you think someone is this large, you can't beat them. They will beat you no matter how you train. I lift weights every day, I punch bags every day, but if you're coming against me, I don't see Pobia like that. I don't see Franks like that. And so it is hard for me to get to the place where I have that kind of mindset that you say, oh, you called us 2 cubes of sugar, we are going to prove a point. No, you call us 2 cubes of sugar. Guess what? We are going to beat you really hard. Right? We are going to reclaim our sovereignty. We will establish a nation here that will benefit even you. Watch us. You see what I'm saying? Now, let's take a listen. This is the best fighter that ever existed in the United States of America. Take a listen.
George, I said, okay, sucker, I'm backing up in the ropes, and I want you to take your best shots. And I just stood there. Come on, show me something. Show me something, kid. You're not doing nothing. You're just a girl. Look at you. You ain't got nothing. Come on, sucker. Show me something. Show me something, sucker. If you think I'm not telling the truth, watch the films. I talked him to death, and I made him so angry. He just beat himself out. He was so tired. Didn't I tell you your hands can't hear what your eyes can't see? You know I'm the greatest of all times. I tell him this when we get in clinches.
This is what he tells the people that he's fighting with. That's why you see most fighters, they always trash talk before they start fighting. And he said he does this while he's fighting with you. Defeat you mentally with words. We underestimate this and think, oh, if we just have weapons, we win. No. Mentally, what are you saying to yourself? What are you telling your people? That Pobia is this huge, you can't win, he's going to beat you, it is going to be a tough fight. No, I say, I'm going to take you down. I'll calculate you and I'll bring you down. He trash talk his opponent even in the middle of a fight before he finally knocks them down. And this is one of the greatest fighters in this country. Now, keep listening.
Where is a man to beat him and talk to him? You understand? He was swaying and just fall on the ropes. I said, man, this is the wrong place to get tired. I said, you are in trouble.
And he does exactly what he says. Respect. You can't beat this. The same thing with David and Goliath for the Christians. If you read your Bible in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, I think from verse 14 downwards, you listen to the trash talk between David and Goliath. The first trash talk, this is battleground language. Am I a dog, David, that you come to me with sticks? This is Goliath in the battlefield. You don't go in and say, oh, the monster is too heavy, I'm going to pray for God to help me. No, he said, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And David responds by letting him know, today, the God that I serve will deliver you into my hands. And I will deliver your body to the birds after I'm done with you. There was a conversation. You can hear language in the battleground. You must talk in a way that you win first before you act. That is why I listened to the way the Ambazonians were talking about Paul Biya. I said, this is not someone that will win a fight. This is not someone that will win a fight based on what they say to themselves about the enemy that they are fighting. I will know if you will win just by what you say about yourself and the enemy you are approaching. Trash talk. David told him that God will deliver you into my hands. You go into that book, you only look for miracles. You want to see signs and wonders. That is military strategy I'm giving you right there inside the Bible. You want it to be written here that this is military strategy in the Bible, and then we explain it to you so you can cram it, and then you go around and say this is military. No, you have to think. That's why you need to use your brain. This is the man who gave birth to Solomon, the wisest king. He was a military warrior. And he brought the head of Goliath back home. God, the God of Israel, will deliver you into my hands. With a stone and a slingshot, brought him down. Took his own sword and chopped his head. Oh, Atanganji, Paul is too strong. Paul Biya is too strong. They are trying to attack us. They know all of our strength. Let me tell you something. This is how we think about France as well. When this Ambazonian movement started, we had leaders in the Ambazonian group. This is what you should pay attention to. We got at some point that you started thinking, oh, some of these leaders have been bought. That is the first strike. They've signed the CDC deal. This was all ideas roaming in the community about the leaders. This is the same leverage France has over Cameroon. Not that they get in to address our policies, choose who become leader. No, they are out there for the interest of their people. If there is an open door to a leader that you can't trust, you always have an enemy coming. Now, brother, can I trust you? Can I tell you something and it stay between us? If you don't have that, forget it. What kind of society are we building? We go nowhere. Can you keep a trade secret? Or you're going to flip and talk to everybody, and all of a sudden you say, no, you fail right there. That is you defeating yourself before you even start. Can you keep a military strategy? Can you keep a trade secret? If you don't have that, don't run around trying to look for francs, look for Paul Biya. No. How come did we get to a place where we can't trust this leader, that we think Paul Biya has bought him over? He has signed a CDC deal, or what other deal? That is us. And when we start holding each other accountable, all of a sudden the enemy outside has no power. When there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. People with a true story, united in spirit, can never be defeated by any outside force. I believe that with all my heart, and I've seen it again and again and again. In family, whatever cycle, same thing. People who talk like women, you can't trust them. They are controlled when they see money, when they see drinks, when they see food. They go on to say things that they were not supposed to say, and you keep them around as friends. No, bye. Loose lips sink ship. You do nothing, build nothing with individuals like that. That's why big companies in America succeed. The first thing, when they have a good idea, they have a close circle of people that they work with. Close circle where they brainstorm, come up with great ideas. If they don't trust the people they are working with, a clown can go out there and disclose that trade secret or that technology secret, and immediately that company might not succeed. So we start working on our character. That's why we talk about moral technocracy. Morality was part of our tradition. A fund must be morally upright. We never just had funds. No, they must be morally upright people to lead us. That is our authentic tradition from antiquity. They were not just out there to lead. Now we have democracy with no soul. Leaders who don't care about the people. And then you turn around tomorrow, you bring francs. If Atanganji Paul sat at home, never went anywhere, we saw white people running around campaigning for Paul Biya. We saw white people reading the election, not a Clement Atangana. Oh, and then let's turn around and we blame white people. No, brother, get your act together. If Tchiroma won the election, why don't you read his name? Why are we hearing Paul Biya? We attack that. We don't just come back and start saying Franks was around here. No. This is the thing, guys. This thing always started in the past. We talk about these things in the past. I know that. In our little bars and Jangi groups, close circles, we've brought it on the international stage. We talk about it now on social media, on the TV. These conspiracy theories. They take you nowhere. You have to be factual about what you say, that you saw what you're saying. If you blame another country, this is maturity. We are preparing ourselves for the global stage. I've given you a perspective about France without blaming or labeling France, but a perspective that don't make you feel small about yourself, while you're having a proper perspective about France. This is maturity, not conspiracy theories. These stories, we've cooked it up in the bars. It used to be in the bars. We've brought it now on the international stage. Imagine you believe that a police officer can't stand you. Because one thing I want our La Republic citizens to understand is, when you look at the revolution in America compared to the revolution in France, it was more brutal in France. Maximilien Robespierre was a vicious individual. He laid a solid foundation for Napoleon Bonaparte. So you might underestimate those in La République du Cameroon. But I want to let you know, it was brutal in France than most other countries in Europe. They had what they call the Bulletin. Just like we have members of the CPDM. If you supported King Louis XVI, they brought you at the Bulletin. And they chopped your head instantly. That is what happened in France. So the French people can be brutal than you think. Most of the bees coming over, where do you think they come from? They come from that side. So don't make the people feel like they are powerless. You don't know what they are capable of. The revolution in France was brutal.
The Constitutional Council has just announced truncated result awarding a fictitious victory to the outgoing President Paul Biya. In so doing, this institution has turned away from its mission as a guardian of truth and democracy to become a partisan body and enemy of the sovereignty of the people. Yet, the truth of the ballot is clear. The official report from our polling station, compiled and secured by our representatives across the country, demonstrate unequivocally that we won this election by a large majority.
I mean, let's watch and see. Let's see what Issa Tchiroma Bakari gets to do.